Dear Earthmates, we are visiting Carlos Palma. He's from Uruguay, but currently in Italia. And uh, thank you so much for accepting this invitation for the interview.
You're most welcome.
Um, um, when did you decide to be a peace activist?
Well, maybe when I arrived in Middle East, I never thought about peace or no peace in life because I come from a very peaceful country, Uruguay. So, but when I arrived in 1985 to Jerusalem to my study of archaeology and Arabic and Hebrew. So I felt myself in the middle of the chaos. Yeah, it was the Intifada, the first Palestinian revolution. So it was very difficult to me, you know. But maybe the thing that's made me think very serious about peace was when I start working with children in a Palestinian school in Jerusalem. And the very first day of school, when I came in the class, one student, 10 years old, raised his hand. And I was sure he will ask my name and where I am from. But he said, "Can you answer to a question, mister? Can you tell us what means peace for you?"
Wow.
I didn't expect this kind of question. So I said, "What do you want to know? We want to know what we can do when there will not be any more war in our land." And for me, that was like a knife in my heart because I realized that all those kids, they born and grow up in war and they never had the experience of one day in peace. For me, it was unbelievable, something like that. So I couldn't sleep at night thinking about those kids. And few months later, I was walking in the Jewish area and a bomb explodes exactly in the place where I was passing through. So suddenly I found myself on the floor, covered of blood, among people dead, people shouting, asking help. And so where I realized that really I am in a country of war. And when I left the hospital with a question in my heart. I said, "Oh, finally, Carlos, what I am doing for peace? What is my role as an educator?" Because I saw around me the culture of war. And I said, the culture of peace, where is it? And what is my contribution just to change this culture of war in culture of peace? And from that moment start a process inside me, you know. But the clue moment it was when one day I was walking in the Arab area and suddenly a group of Palestinians, they circle around me, they close me in a circle and they start to throw me stones because they thought I was a Jewish, another religion, in that moment, an enemy. So it was a very difficult moment. I couldn't escape. And the soldiers from far, when they saw the situation, they started to run to help me. And well, I thought if they arrive in time to take this youth, they will finish in prison in very bad conditions. So I told them, escape quickly before the soldiers arrive. They start to run, and one of them fell down. And when I saw blood in his leg, I took my handkerchief to stop the blood, and I told him, go fast before the soldiers arrive. And 3 days later at night, someone dropped the door of my house. And when I opened, a big surprise was that youth who wanted to return me back my handkerchief clean and a bread that his mother prepared for me. And at that moment, I understood that, that things you understand with your mind, other things we understand with your heart, with your soul. So from inside, I understood that if I want to make a contribution to a culture of peace, I have to start with a culture of love. And that moment, love means to love everyone without any differences beyond the religion or the culture. So I say to myself, I don't know how long I will stay here. I don't know what will happen with my life, but I know that I have never to stop loving because this for me was and is still the way to build peace.
I'm touched deeply, and thank you so much. And wow, yes, and the initiative you started, the synergy. I love this concept of synergy. Good energies come together, and a good synergy produces something good. Um, And also, each energy is also the result of some synergy or a group of synergies. You are an
Exactly.
energy, but you are a product of certain synergies. So am I. And then we come together and something is happening now. And um, I, my basic assumption is that thanks to the biological instinct of survival and living and developing, enough number of people on Earth will come to senses to uh, to overcome the obstacles towards a peaceful world. I refuse to be pessimistic. To me, it is unethical to be a pessimist because then it's so easy. You're just pessimistic and you give up. But that means the bad guys will win. We cannot afford that. And to me, this world is full of victims. I am, I try not to be angry with anyone, even the most horrible regimes, the people who are running those regimes in favor, in the name of, great goals, great ideals, this or that, they are also victims. I mean, I remember this, there was this man breaking an accordion because that the mentality is that that's a musical instrument and that's the product of Satan or whatever. And my first reaction was anger, but then I said, "Come on, Tarık, this guy is a he he is a victim too." And then there are victims of victims and victims. So some people like you, uh, we have to be more patient and uh, open. I agree with you. And um, one more thing I want to say. Um, um, there was a wonderful peace conference addressing youngsters in Nigeria a few months ago. I was one of the speakers, and my colleagues from different countries, they contributed wonderfully. They said very nice things, very eye-opening. And when it was my turn, I said my friends discuss, talked about very important areas. Now, I would like to say a few things about inner peace and how can we have a peaceful dialogue with ourselves first in ourselves and with our immediate circle in the family, etc. Because we know in many organizations there are wonderful people with wonderful goals, but they fight each other. Oh, come on, you want the same things basically. And if we cannot form a peaceful relationship among ourselves, what can we expect? It's so I find you know, 100% when I saw the title Living Peace, and this is our second actually conversation, the visual one, the first. And yes, and then that was uh, the first steps. Those were the first steps. And then how about the formation of your group or movement called Living Peace? Living Peace. Mhm.
Well, I never thought to do a project. That was the result of the 30 years in Middle East. Because from Jerusalem, when I spent 12 years, I moved to Lebanon and was the last period of the war. And then I went to Turkey and to Istanbul 2 years. Then I returned back to Jerusalem. And then I went to Iraq, and the war started in Iraq. Uh, well, it was very, very hard to me. I have this question in my heart. So, what can I do for peace? And I felt sometimes my limits and my. I remember once I was working and someone was shouting and asking for help in the middle of the street. Was a man carry on his arm a baby. Uh, So I went to meet him in the street and I told him, "What can I do for you?" I said, my baby's dying. I need a car to go to a hospital. But I didn't have a car, but I knew a clinic not far. So I took his baby because I saw he's so tired. And I told him, I will do it. I started to run fast as much as I could just to arrive to the clinic. And when I arrived to the principal door of the clinic, I saw that the baby was dead. So, so this moment that you feel so bad with so many questions in your mind, so many whys, and when I escaped because of the war, so many things happened in Iraq, and then I went to Cairo in Egypt, and I started working as a teacher in an American school. And after 6 months, a new revolution started there, the Arab Spring Revolution. So again, the same drama again to recognize between the dead people, some students. And one day it was too much to me. I was, I mean, the principal of the school asked me to go to two families to, to give the news that their children were dead. So for me, it was very difficult situation. I returned home crying, said, I have to do something. I have to do something. I had one class with 12 students, 10 years old. So it came to my mind, why not to do a dice of peace. It was a dice that I have one here. I don't know if you can see it.
That's so nice.
So, very colorful with sentences. The kids, they were all Muslims. So, very simple sentence with values to live, to create peace, love everyone, listen to the other, to forgive one another, to be the first to love. So I made the box, this cube. I went to the school and I said to the students, I present you the dice of peace. From now on, every morning, a different students will throw the dice in front of the class and will explain this sentence because this sentence that will be up will be the program to live for peace during all day at school. And 10 minutes before we finished the lesson, we stopped it and we made a sharing how we practice this sentence. So, how we spend the day for peace at school. So, my only intention was just to create an atmosphere of peace in the class because outside was the chaos with the revolution. So, I never expected that the student will change that much. It was like you offer a glass of water, fresh water, to someone who is in the middle of the desert. So they took it so seriously, so seriously. They start to share so amazing experiences. The Buddhism that was very, very strong in an American school with people from very high society, very egoist sometimes. So the Buddhism disappeared in 3 weeks. And parents start to call me to say, what's happened with my son? What's going on with my daughter? We don't recognize her because they start to change at home. So I remember one mother called me on Friday. Friday the schools are closed. And she said, please speak with my son because he's crying and crying because he's not convinced that Friday the school is closed. He wants to go to school also on Friday.
Oh,
Uh, that was something that I never expected. This motivation, they discover motivation to go to school, living to live for peace. So in very short time, they involve their families, and then the teachers they start to be involved in this pedagogy of the dice. So the principal asked me, what is your secret, Mr. Carlos? I said, I have no secret. It's just the dice of peace. When I explained her, she said, oh, this is not for your class only. This is for all the school. They made 60 dice of peace and all the school started, and was for me it was amazing to see the teachers with the dice go into their classes to start throwing the dice. But not only, if I went to the toilet, the lady who cleaned the toilet, they showed me a small dice. This is my dice, Mr. Carlos. This is my sentence of today. If
oh,
I if I went to the cafeteria, it was the dice and the sentence, the administration, everywhere in the school.
wow.
So it was a big transformation. So people in Cairo start to speak about this school that have the dice of peace, live for peace. So I start to receive calls from different schools. We want to be in your project. And I said, which project? I didn't make a project. I said, this one, the dice. And so I made a project and I call it Live in Peace because I always say to the students, peace is not something that you do, it's something that you live. And peace is there in your heart when you love. If we love, we have an inner peace. And only when we have our inner peace, we are able to build a relationship, a peaceful relationship with the others and with the nature. So we start this Living Peace project with 25 schools. For me, it was a dream. I said, gosh, I never expected something like that. And one day, the student, 15 years old, came to me and said, Mr. Carlos, we have an idea. It is a crazy idea, but we want to do it. I said, what is it? I said, we want to write to all presidents around the world to say that we are in revolution here, but we are living for peace. We have the dice of peace. So I never saw them so convinced about it. I said, okay, write the letter. Even if inside myself I said, well, no one will read this letter. Come on, president. But we sent more than 100 emails, and after 10 days, an answer arrived. It was President Obama from the United States and his wife. And he wrote a very nice letter. And at the end, he said, let's no one and nothing stop you because you start a path of peace education. And after that, I received a letter from the kings of Spain, the president of Ireland, the prime minister of Luxembourg, the Nobel Prize of India, and so on. I said, what's going on here? That a cube on carton made all these noises around the world. And another moment that I feel inside, here's the finger of God. This may be something that he wants through a very simple chest like a dice. And from that moment, an incredible adventure started because I was invited in Rome for a pedagogical congress with educators from all around the world. And they asked me to present my project that was 1 year just of life. And so many schools, they said, we won't live in peace, we won't live in peace. So living peace start to go everywhere, the dice. They start to personalize the dice. When the dice arrived in Philadelphia, in the United States, in a clinic, psychiatric clinic, they made the therapeutic dice of peace. 8 different models for 8 different therapies. The dice arrived in Mexico, an interreligious group, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindus, Christians, they made the interreligious dice of peace.
Wonderful.
Each phase have one sentence for a different religion about peace. The dice arrived in Colombia, and the University of Colombia, they created dice of peace for architects, for engineers, for law, the ethic dice of peace, and start to be in universities, in movements, Scouts, Rotary, Lions, in organizations, associations, and then they start to be personalizing so many subjects. The days of peace for music, the days of peace for art, the days of peace for family, the days of peace in Braille for the blind people, the days of peace for the conflict, the days of peace for so many things, more than 100 different dices of peace. So, what's happened now after 13 years that this 12 students became 3 millions, and the one school became 2,550 schools in 136 countries and 96 organizations, partner organization working in synergy. So a big family from different religions, from different cultures, but united in one commitment to be protagonist of peace. Because peace starts with me. I don't wait for the others. I do the first step with myself in my heart to be able to give to the others. So that's the living peace adventure.
Wonderful. Wow. Great, great. Wow. Thank you so much. And this is very important. Uh, I've also been trying to find very simple, inexpensive ideas, but which are positively radical. Unfortunately, the word radical is misused. It's used for violence, but radical does not mean violence, of course. I enjoy considering myself a radical person. Radical related to the roots. Let's look at the roots of the problems and try to solve the problems, not superficially, but uh, with a positive approach to the problems, the roots, etc. So, so instead of saying radical this, radical that, I want to say violent this, violent that, against violent this or violent that. So violence is what we should, yeah, be against. And here I would like to share something simple. Um, One of the things we could do is choosing names from different cultures, especially from cultures uh, with conflicts. Um, so we do not choose our birthplace or culture, whatever, and then people say you are this, you are that. Uh, um, in uh, in Sarajevo, some 14 years ago, I was invited um, to do creative writing seminar, and which I prefer to call creative living, because creative writing is a byproduct of living. And anyway, so I was there, and these youngsters, um, high school students, a group of Serbians, a group of Bosniaks, a group of Croatian youths. They were sitting, and I was going to uh, focus on creative living and writing. This is how I began. I said, there are some apples that say, down with oranges and bananas. There should only be apples in the world. Those are racist apples. And then there are some apples that say, okay, uh, I'm an apple, but let there be bananas and oranges as well. These are democracy oriented apples. And then there are some apples that say, I did not choose to be an apple. I want to become a fruit salad. And I said, I want to become a fruit salad. And I am not enough this or that culture. I'm trying to, this is a lifelong journey, trying to. So, as part of that, I have selected names from various cultures. And this ethically helps me to look at a concrete social, political, whatever problem from more angles. So this uh, could be, we need simple ideas like this, and I would love to um, start your dice uh, energy synergy project in Turkey too, if it has not started already. I have not heard. Um, but let's talk about that afterwards. You're, whenever, what are the questions? What are the sentences? What can be? And then we can start making use of that wonderful idea. Wow.
Yeah, I think our secrets, our only way to give an answer to the problems, to the challenges in the world, is to be united, to work in net. It's true that alone I can do so many things, but it's also true that together, as you say before, this synergy, that I love your project as my own project, and you welcome my project as your own project. So then it's not yours, it's not mine, it's our.
Exactly.
And it's much rich that before. So I think that's why I say yes, absolutely yes. I want to tell you that with Turkey we have a special story because we have some schools working, uh, but when all the events happen in Turkey, the school closed.
Oh,
All those schools closed. So we don't have any more someone sharing in the net. No, unfortunately. We have some youth. Now we are doing a project that we are doing a school of peace on a boat, traveling for 8 months in the Mediterranean Sea. So we started the 1st of March and we conclude the 30th of October. And the 200 youth from all the countries in the Mediterranean participated. They are divided in 8 period of time of 2 weeks. And now Friday I will be in Cyprus, and I will make this traject from Cyprus to Beirut, Cyprus, with 25 youth, and some youth are from Turkey. Mm. So we have some project and always some people, but individual people. that are participating.
Mm,
So,
very good, very good. And I would like to thank here to our mutual friend John Mukuta Muayini um, and Muyana, uh, our friend in Congo, um, Democratic Republic of Congo. Thanks to him, we have met, and I am delighted. And yes, one of the key questions is, what kind of a world do I want to live in? Uh, to each person, this is relevant. I mean, people usually focus on their own surroundings in this country, in this town, etc., or region. Okay, but we are all part of that. One of the favorite the, uh, one of the good words is glocal, global and local together. Glocal. So I have been trying, not always successfully, unfortunately, but I've been trying to behave in such a way that this behavior is in direct relationship with the ideal kind of life. Uh, because unless we do that, there will never be a magical turning point from above, and then things will start to be. No, this is a continuous, patient process, and even if nobody else does anything, still it's ethical. It's good. That okay, it's each person's duty. Uh, if and yeah, wonderful. And I'm so delighted. And uh, uh, nosotros is one of the words I know in Spanish, but how do you say we are together?
es, nosotros estamos unidos o estamos juntos,
Mm, nosotros. Uh,
estamos juntos.
and here, this is a good moment to utter my only sentence in Spanish. Deseo hablar español, pero no puedo. I I studied Spanish a little bit in 1980s when I was in Saudi Arabia working for Aramco as an English teacher. I wanted to go to Nicaragua, etc. In early 1980s. Yes, yeah, and I wish we could learn, understand, speak all the languages in the world, including the so-called dead ones. Yes. Um, what would you like to say to younger Earthmates? Um, Ideally, now you're speaking to 8 billion people and more billions. It's always good to have an ideal audience in mind. So, what would you like to recommend, suggest to your younger?
Well, I will try to express my conviction that peace is possible.
Mhm,
That because peace depends on me, and I will remind a very famous sentence of Gandhi: "Be the change you want to see in the world."
mhm,
Start you to be this change that you want to see. So this protagonism, you know, is so true that may more noise a falling tree that a forest growing up. And we are always in front of this tree who is fall down and make noise. And we know that are the war, the war around the world and the catastrophe within nature and so on. But there's a forest growing up that we are a big number. But maybe we have not a voice. Maybe we need uh, people like you uh, organizations that give voice to this voice to say, look, I have a glass of water. I can see, I can, the world say half is empty. I prefer to say, look at half is full of water.
Yes, and we
Oh,
can increase it. I
yeah,
agree with you. I agree with you. And um, Living Peace International, right? This is the
yes.
wonderful. And uh, yeah, we are together. And I enjoy saying this to my friends when the time of relative departing comes. We are together. Um, and Earth Civilization Project Network, as you have perhaps had a chance to look, that's a similar synergy, actually. It's good. There are wonderful synergies. And although we do not know most of the synergies, most of the people, still we are all contributing. It's like the oxygen molecule becoming widespread on Earth. Um, the molecules were not aware of one another, and the peace molecule now, like oxygen, yeah, it's got to, yeah, we're together, and you're always welcome to um, join our cafe and for synergy, especially when you feel tired. That's a good thing, because we don't discuss. I don't like discussing. I enjoy listening and sharing my thoughts, and then food for thought. So it's like a feast. People bring food for thought, and then we learn, and we feel better. We can function better, etc. So it's also your project. Yeah. Thank you. Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you, Tarek. Thank you so much.
We are together. Okay.
We are together. Yes.
Dear Earthmates, I'm happy that we are together. Yes.